Hello again, Internet. It's after Christmas, which means it's time for my annual series of videos where I talk about random topics I don't normally get to talk about in my more well-polished videos. Or as I like to call them, my year-end vlogs. Now, for this first vlog, rather than giving an update of the channel, I wanted to talk about something a little bit more serious. Something that I've noticed over this past year that I've more or less observed about the society that we live in. Now, if you're looking at the title, you're probably wondering what I'm meaning by, are we too sensitive? Well, this was something that I started thinking about after hearing a song by an artist that I support on Patreon by the name of Joy Frost. As one of the perks of being a patron, she sometimes uploads raw versions of songs she's working on, so basically works in progress. And then, usually a month to a year down the road, depending on different factors, she uploads a more complete version of the song, complete with music video, which is the case with this song right here.
Get tough, but don't play the victim. Gotta grow a thicker skin.
If you actually want to hear the full song, well, you can find her on Spotify. She has her own YouTube channel. She's also on Instagram. I'll include all the information in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're watching this on Instagram, Instagram doesn't really like URLs, so I'll try to tag her appropriately where I can. Now, for the purpose of this discussion, I want you to pay attention to these specific parts of the song.
Be quiet, don't start your crying. Why you always gotta let it in? You're too sensitive for the cruel world we're in.
In the behind-the-scenes footage that she included in the music video itself, she talks about how the song is a reminder to herself to not be super sensitive. However, I have a different interpretation of the song, one that may kind of clash with her intention, but it's because I'm bringing my own perspective into it. Growing up, I was a highly sensitive child, a very emotional child. Granted, there are a number of contributing factors that would have resulted in me being super emotional, but point being, I was a crier. I was someone who would very easily get worked up. I would get very angry, get very sad, and herein lies why I struggle to say that. See, when you hear a lot of those things like, don't you dare start crying, you're too sensitive, you need to man up, you need to tough it out, this is just the way life is. When I think back on my life, through all of the times that I've heard that, whether I've heard it from family members teasing me relentlessly because the idea of emotionally torturing children is something that our society finds hilarious for some reason, or when I've heard it from people at school who were bullying me and tormenting me relentlessly to the point that I contemplated both homicide and suicide, more on that later, or when I was hearing it from teachers or even from coworkers who were basically being jerks, oftentimes a lot of the people who tell you that you're too sensitive, that you need to man up, that you need to just not take things so seriously, usually they're saying this in defense of what can only be described as toxic behavior. And so when I heard that Joy wrote it as a reminder to herself, I couldn't help but feel kind of sad. Kind of sad that this is what society does to us, does to our young people, and does to us as a whole, where we've just become conditioned to accept behavior that just is not okay. I mean, you'll often see a lot of older individuals talking about how people are too sensitive, that snowflakes are easily offended, and that people just need to chill. The truth is, people aren't more sensitive, they aren't easily offended. You're just pissed off that you can't be openly homophobic, racist, or misogynistic without being called out like the piece of human garbage that you are. Likewise, when it comes to the idea of family, we instill this really messed up idea of, oh, well, even if they treat you like crap, family is family, you can't cut them out of your lives. Which, no. If someone is tormenting you emotionally, abusing you physically, sexually, literally driving you to the brink of suicide, no. You don't want to stay with them because they're family. You get as far away from them as possible. And so it bugs me that this is what our society is like, where it's like, oh yeah, we just have to toughen up, hold our emotions in, and not express them. For those of you who may counter saying, oh, well, we need to teach people how to process their emotions healthily. Yeah, I'm all for that. But that's not what phrases like you're too sensitive are conveying. Not in the slightest. I've made it no secret that I've been working on my mental health for the past couple of years, seeing a therapist and actually trying to, work through some of the damage that some people that were really close to me have wreaked and inflicted upon me, some of which, even though I was only 5, still affects me as an adult. And so, when I listen to Too Sensitive, I don't necessarily hear it as someone saying it to themselves. I merely hear it as someone, having to put up with a lot of the same defenses, a lot of the same excuses people have given them for their own bad behavior that shouldn't be tolerated. While there has been a lot of change and a lot of people have been actually standing up and saying, hey, this kind of stuff is not okay, well, it's still going to be a long time before we finally are able, as a society, to actually fully stand up saying, hey, a lot of these behaviors that we just took as being part of life are not okay, and we need to actually step up and change them. I guess the point I want to make with all of this is that if someone is telling you that you're too sensitive, that you cry too much, that you react too strongly to things that are inoffensive, they're probably not acting with your best interests in mind. Full stop. You shouldn't have to be ashamed of feeling the emotions you're feeling. Yes, you should learn how to process your emotions properly, particularly anger and sadness, so that way you don't either bottle up your anger and then explode in some form of mass violence, like a mass shooting, or alternately, you don't turn it inward and resort to self-harm, drug addiction, or worst case scenario, suicide. The only way to really work through your emotions is the first step, and this is something I've had to learn both the hard way and relearn when I was working with my therapist, is that you first have to acknowledge what you are feeling and why you are feeling that way. By actually acknowledging and allowing yourself to feel those emotions, they will actually run their course. Problem is, too many people, men especially, are just told to keep it in and not express any sort of emotion. And, well, that's why there is a high suicide rate amongst men compared to women or other genders. That's not to make light of what women and people who are transgendered struggle with. Believe me, I understand that there are a lot of factors. I can't speak for everyone living through every single experience because, well, a lot of people are dealt really bad hands. But the most important thing, what you shouldn't ever have to do, is view your own emotions as an inconvenience. Acknowledge them, let them run their course, so that way you're not keeping it inside you and driving yourself insane. I've had to do that for my entire life, and that's half the reason why I have so many problems as an adult with my mental health. And that's pretty much why I've been working on trying to address it. Never feel ashamed to feel what you feel. If you feel like crying after, even if it's something that makes you happy, something that makes you sad, acknowledge your feelings. Never feel ashamed to express yourself. Never feel ashamed for having those feelings. Because if you try to ignore them, if you try to bury them, you'll give them a power greater than anyone can handle. That would be my takeaway for really anybody watching this video, is that no, we are not becoming too sensitive. People are just being called out for toxic behavior and, well, they can't seem to understand the idea of being accountable for their own actions. So that's it for this year-end vlog. Hopefully there was a point to it, but, well, this was something that's bothered me throughout the whole year, and so what do you guys think? Am I onto something? Do you have your own experiences you'd like to share, or do you think I should just kind of shut up and get back to reviewing movies? Let me know in the comments below. But for now, I'll see you next time.